Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show tonight. Tonight we're speaking on multicultural metamorphosis, transitional uh, housing, and we have the Zoom meetings that we have once a week on Wednesdays for returned citizens, and we involve spouse and children now. We have the spouse that's on with the children, with the individuals that's coming home from incarceration. So we've involved the entire family to the conversation that we have on Wednesdays. And this week we have a guest on that we're going to bring on for the Suicide Prevention Week. This will be September the 7th, I believe. That's San Francisco. So we're going to be speaking about the suicide prevention. The rate is high. So we're going to speak about that. So we're going to speak with Gloria Harris. She's a native of San Francisco, born and raised in the Bayview Hunters Point projects, the original Hunters Point projects. And we have Gloria Harris on the show tonight. Welcome to the show, Miss Harris. We're glad to have you again on the show on a different topic. And first, we're going to speak on the week of the 7th. It starts on the 4th to the 10th, I believe. But it'll be speaking about suicide in the communities of San Francisco. And you have a lifelong resident here in San Francisco. You've been here for a number of years. And you were raised in San Francisco. You weren't born in San Francisco, but you were raised in San Francisco. So all you know is San Francisco.
Yes.
The baby Hunters Point. And you came to San Francisco at an early age. How old when you came to San Francisco?
I was 1954.
2 years old. So you are a native of San Francisco.
Yes.
You was in there where they had the old projects, the barracks, so to speak, where they had the men that worked in the shipyards, and they had the housing for the families.
Families, yes.
And your father was in the military.
Yeah, in the Army, stationed at Presidio.
Presidio. And so that was really, mainly the projects was really meant for that.
Right.
For the house of workers in San Francisco.
Yes.
Okay. And you had experience with suicide.
Yes.
Your sister committed suicide.
Yes.
And how old were you then?
I was 24.
You was 24 when she committed suicide, and you witnessed that.
Yes, I witnessed it.
Yeah, so that was a tragic that happened in your family, and so you're part of this suicide prevention program as well as I am. That's taking place in the week of the 4th to the 10th of September here in the Bayview Hunters Point.
Yes.
Matter of fact, it'll be at Joseph Lee Gym on 3rd Street that they'll be giving
Having a panel.
panel.
Yes.
Okay. And you're on the panel, I believe.
Yes, I am one of the panelists.
You want to elaborate on a little on that?
Well, I'm one of a panelist that's going to be speaking on we self-harm, and it's a real touchy situation, but it's a lot happening right now. It's a lot of suicide. Since the pandemic, they say it went up like 200%.
Really?
And I know that, that's not really being talked about in our community, but it's happening a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of families are grieving and going through. So we're trying to prevent it, trying to find out the signs and did you see any signs? And I remember as a young girl, when my sister committed suicide, the signs that I remember, because I do a lot of journaling, is because she tried a couple times before she actually did it. Now, she was an honor roll student, graduated from nursing school, introvert, but she was in a lot of pain. And the only thing that after I got older, I questioned my mom. That's something we don't talk about. I was wondering what happened when she went to when they went to therapy, and she said, well, they said Pam was her own worst enemy after a while from her first couple of times that she tried.
This is what the therapist said?
Yes. So I learned from that after working in the field is that they just gave up on her. So I don't know if it's because it was in the African American community and that they didn't care, because from my understanding now, her whole family should have been in therapy. And yeah, so that was really a tragic situation that I think that can be prevented if we have the tools and and the support in the community, and something that we can all talk about. I know now they're saying they don't like to use the word suicide, so I mean, it doesn't bother me because I did a lot of work around it, but we're using self-harm. I guess it's making it a little bit easier for some of the family members that maybe haven't did some work around that, the grieving.
Okay. So my understanding is that you've taken part in this arena of suicide, homelessness, shelters, and everything that you got a couple degrees in this field now. That you've dedicated your life now to helping other people with their grieving and their what the things that they're going through.
Right. Yes. I worked in the field for about 11 years in Oakland at Alameda County Behavioral Health. And then I went back to school and got my degree in substance abuse counseling and social behavior science. And I also getting another degree in peer support specialist with Berkeley City College.
And you retired here in San Francisco from
Yeah.
the what did you work in San Francisco? Retired
Department of Human Services.
You retired from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Great, yeah, and you're still doing the work. Great thing. You're doing good work. You're doing good work. And right now you're working with the tiny homes in Oakland.
Yes, that's right in my community.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing as well. So we commend you for the work that you're doing. Keep on doing the work, because we need people to step up and help those that's less fortunate than us. And there's a lot of people that's homeless right now. There's a lot of people that don't have nowhere to live, no food to eat, and people look at them like they're third world citizens, but they're citizens of the California.
And they're young and old.
Right.
They got kids as young as in their early 20s.
Yes.
And then they got seniors where they have another whole encampment for them. I'm just learning about that, where they have a lot of the seniors in some of the trailers. They have a whole little community. I know in Oakland they may have it over here too, but yeah, and the young people. So we had another referral because a young lady came in on Tuesday. She was 24, but they referred her to a different location for her age group, because the age group where I'm working at is mainly like 30 to, I don't know, 50 maybe, I'm not quite sure, but everybody is mobile. There's no real young adults, there's no disabled in this particular tiny home. But they're all mobile and self-sufficient.
Now, let me ask you a question. You may be able to answer, you may not be able to answer. What about the children? What about the children that's in school and that's in preschool? What do they do with the children that's in school and preschool? What do they have to offer them?
Well, from my understanding, talking with one of the directors, they said that was their first priority. If they find out that a kid or a baby is living in shelter and homeless, that's their first priority, to get them housing. But I have actually seen people coming out of the tents on the street with strollers, with babies. But that's their first priority.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yes.
And you know, I say that because, see, we live in one of the richest states in America, California. We live in one of the richest states in America, and we have millionaires, multi-millionaires live in this state, California. In the northern district, the Bay Area, the North Bay, the East Bay, rich, wealthy people that live in these neighborhoods, and they're buying these expensive homes and driving these expensive cars, and they live in life of Raleigh, and we got people walking around sleeping on the streets, live with rats and roaches on the street, and they're not cared about. You know?
And it's a lot of things going on. People are being raped. People
Yeah.
are being
Being murdered,
being murdered
on the street. You know, just a few weeks ago, there was a man in a tent. He got fluid thrown on him and it lit a fire. You know, he's burned up. You know, right in the Bay Area.
Yes.
You know, and that's ridiculous that we have to live like this in one of the richest states in America. We have to live like this. And we just got a new district attorney in San Francisco, a sister, you know, a young sister. And she got work to do. She got a lot of work to do. And she promised that she would do the work, you know, going start in the TL. You know, in the TL, they got people on the street they shooting dope on the street. They getting loaded on the street. And then you got tourists that come out of town and they walking on the street and they're seeing all this stuff that's in San Francisco. And you know, San Francisco is being talked about. You know, this has happened in our city. Where we was born and raised is happening in our city. You know, I left in 1987. I was kidnapped from my city. I was sent to prison for a crime I didn't commit. And I served 27 years and 9 months in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I came back. I've been home 7 years. You know, I came home with boots on the ground because I knew coming home from prison I had to be better than I was when I went. Okay, so I came home with boots on the ground knowing that I have to do something about what's going on in my city. All right, this is my city. I was born and raised here, and I don't put it off. This is my city. And I know that I did harm when I was here before I left and went to prison. So I know that what I have to do where I'm here now is to give back to my community, San Francisco. Okay? Not Bayview, Hunters Point, not the Western District, all San Francisco. You know, I mean, the youngsters made that where you can go only so much, so close, so many places. Now, I go anywhere in San Francisco. This is my city.
Mm-hmm.
So I got work to do in San Francisco. You know, I got to heal the areas that need work done in San Francisco. And so I drive around and I see certain things going on, and it bothers me because they got people here in San Francisco that's not doing nothing. They're just here. They're just existing. They're doing nothing, and they got good jobs. You know, they got things that's going on, but they're saying, well, that's his problem, and let him have his problem, and I'm cool. I'm all right. But no, you got a problem because he's in your city.
It's all of our problems.
It's all of our problems.
Because we're not in a bubble.
Right. We're not in a bubble. This
Yes.
is not a virtual reality. This goes on. This happens. You know, and people have to be aware. They have to wake up and smell the coffee. It's brewing. It's been brewing for years. It's going on, and we got a major problem in San Francisco. You know, and we have to come out collectively, and we got to work at trying to resolve this problem because it's all of our problem. It's not just some people's problem. It's all of our problem. To see a person walk on the street and living on the streets, and you walk around and look at him like he's trash. Nah, look at it. No, he's an individual. He's a person. You know, you can be in the same. We live from paycheck to paycheck. We can be homeless too. You just take one paycheck that you miss, and you're gonna be homeless. One
paycheck away.
Right. And in San Francisco, the rent is so ridiculous high. You know, if you miss one paycheck, they're gonna put you out because somebody else wants that apartment. They gonna say, well, wait a minute, you got another 2 months. No, they're gonna put you out that month because they want that apartment and they can raise the rent. Somebody else come in. So you got to be very careful what you're doing in San Francisco about how you're gonna live and when it's not my problem, it's their problem. It's your problem, and you better understand. You can't forget where you come from. You might have to go back. You know, you got the big old cars, big old houses that you live in. Don't forget where you come from. You might slip and go back down the hill and be right there with the homeless people.
That's right, because we're all part of this this community. We're all part of it.
Yes.
And everybody that's out there is not on drugs and alcohol.
Not on drugs and alcohol. You know, I worked at a homeless shelter in West Bay. I mean East Bay. I worked in Richmond. Matter of fact, at a homeless shelter in Richmond. I worked there for a few months. And I worked there reluctantly when I first started. I don't want to work at a homeless shelter, But somebody told me, hey, you gonna fit in real good here, man. So I went in, I went to work, and I worked there that night, and I loved it. You know, it was cool because these people that was working, that was living in the homeless shelter, I drove up that evening, I saw these cars in the parking lot. I was wondering, like, what are these cars? It's a homeless shelter. It's Brookside Homeless Shelter, matter of fact. That's the name, Brookside Homeless Shelter. When all these cars in the parking lot, so I asked the guy inside, I said, all these cars out here, man. He said, man, the people in here, they're sleeping in here because they have nowhere to live. They can buy a car and pay a car note and insurance, but they can't pay rent.
Wow.
So they sleep in the homeless shelter. They take a shower in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening, get a little eat, go to sleep. Same thing, over and over every day. And that's what they were doing. So I was saying, like, man, this is crazy. How could they live in this state, this city, where they can buy a car, a new car, pay insurance, go to the corner store, or go to Safeway, whatever, buy a little food, and come in and live in a shelter and sleep in the morning, take a shower, and leave and go to work. It's crazy. And so, you know, they would get a hot meal in the morning, you know, hot cereal and whatever. And I bought a big coffee pot because they didn't have no coffee pot, a big old coffee pot before they have coffee, hot coffee. And that's what they was doing. But this is how we live.
They got people at the tiny home that has jobs. Too.
Yes. Got people working
And
Tesla.
cars. Did you see all those cars?
Yes, people work at Tesla Motors, and they can't pay rent. And they're in tiny homes, they're in shelters in America. You know, what do we do about that? I don't know. But I'm going to fall back on this. We got Multicultural Metamorphosis. This is a program that I started 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. I came home from prison. I got my 501c nonprofit number, federal and state number, and I started a program called Multicultural Metamorphosis. Multicultural Metamorphosis, it means, multicultural means for everybody, all races of people. Metamorphosis is complete change. Come from a cocoon to a butterfly, complete change. Multicultural metamorphosis, it fits all races of people, everybody that want to change. Program I started in Old Folsom years ago when I was there. And I took it from Old Folsom and took it to Tracy DVI when I went there. And I brought it from Tracy DVI, I brought it home to San Francisco. Now we have transitional houses for formerly incarcerated family members coming home from prison. We have a Zoom station that every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we have a Zoom station for formerly incarcerated family members coming home. We've invited the family spouses and the children into the Zoom. And the reason we did this because the men that come home from prison, that's been gone 10, 20, 30, and 40 years, they've been visiting by their wives, by their children in prison. So when they come home from prison, they don't know how to come home and be part of a household. So we have a program now where we're bringing the families on Zoom, and we're talking about how do you adjust for a man coming home that's been gone 40, 30, 20 years. How do you adjust to that? Opposed to being in the visiting room, being fed out of a machine, and being there Saturday and Sunday, and then go for the rest of the week and come back Saturday and Sunday the next week. How do you adjust to a man coming home being part of your household now? Right. I just brought a man home a couple of weeks ago. He's been home a month now. He did 42 years in prison. He did 42 years in prison. And he came home last month, and his wife called me. I picked him up on a Wednesday at Stockton's prison. He went home. The following morning, his wife called me and said, Amin, what do I do now? And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, what I do now? He's home. What do we do now? How do we adjust to this? Whoa, that's a serious question. What do you do now? Because he left from prison, 42 years. He's coming home to a community where he knows nothing about. He don't know how to use a cell phone. He don't know how to write a check. He don't know how to do nothing. So what do he do now? Okay, right. So I said, okay, we're going to involve you as one of the spouses to one of the people that's been in prison for all these years. We want to bring you on and bring your children on and allow us to talk about what do we do now. Now, this gentleman that I'm speaking of, I know him personally. We did time together in prison. and we became real good friends. Matter of fact, he's one of my best friends today. He's a Southern Mexican from Southern California. I'm a black man from San Francisco. It's unheard of in prison. You're not supposed to do this. But we became real good friends in prison. They hated us in prison. They hated us. They couldn't stand us. But what nothing they could do about it. He's my friend. We became real good friends. He was a clerk for the Protestant chapel. I was a clerk for the interfaith chapel, Muslim chapel, Jewish chapel, Druids. I was the interfaith chapel clerk. So we became real good friends. And when he came home, I went and picked him up, and I made sure that he had clothes and everything that he needed. He calls me every morning. Every morning he calls me and get direction. I mean, what did I do now?
That's good.
And I've been giving him direction every day because he has an opportunity to be part of this world again. He did his time. He did over his time. And he's home now. And his wife has an opportunity either to have her husband or not to have her husband because it's her choice. He's home. It's her choice now whether I want to be with this man or not.
But he's in like a reentry.
He was in a reentry program for 6 months.
Okay.
Then after 6 months, if he feels that he's able to ready to go home, he can go home. But he can get extended for another 6 months if he wishes to.
Okay.
It's up to him if he feels that he's ready to go home. Right now, he and his wife is working on their relationship, whether it's going to be a stable relationship, whether they're going to be together. His kids are grown. You know, his daughters, when he came home last month, his daughter met him and said that she'd been waiting since she was 2 years old for this day.
Mm.
Since she was 2 years old, she waited.
Wow.
She's grown. She has her own business in Southern California. So we have this program every Wednesday, and I want to invite everybody that's looking at this show tonight. We got a multicultural metamorphosis. We have a program. You can't see it, but we got a program every Wednesday at 6 o'clock on Zoom, and I'm going to put this Zoom on my Facebook page to advertise it, to show the log number for the Zoom station, and come on and be part of this discussion that we have, because we need you. We need your help, because people that's been in society have not ever been anywhere. You can tell us what needed for a man to come home and what should he do. Well, this is what I think a man should do, and this is just my opinion. Okay, I think that when a guy come home from prison, he needs to find himself a job. Right? He get paid, come home, and get a paycheck to the woman, and make sure that he's part of the household, and slowly get brought back into it. That's my opinion. So I want to put this on my webpage, and I want you guys to come on my webpage, Wendell, Amin, James, and my webpage, and come and be part of it. We want to thank you for coming on tonight, Miss Harris. We appreciate you coming on. And the suicide prevention, the 7th of September next month. And look at our show Saturday night, 7 o'clock on Channel 29. We'll be on the air that time. You're on Zoom. Tomorrow we'll be on Zoom when the Amin James show.
And we'll have more dates.
And we'll have more dates available for you
next week. Yeah.
Next week. Thank you and have a great week.